Hello and welcome back to the Library of Zer podcast. There has been a lot of going on in the Star Wars fandom. I am Andrew. As usual, with me is Jared.
Hello there.
We're going to be talking about a lot of things in the coming episodes, but today's episode, we're going to discuss Jared's experience at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in Disney World. What was that like? What are your first impressions going in on that?
Well, first impressions is it's an incredible place. Disney is well known for having a lot of attention to detail. Whatever your thoughts are on, the movies and some of the new things that have come out, like we can agree, even movies like The Last Jedi, which I'm not as big a favorite of as some other people are, we can agree that filmmaking-wise and story, like little plot point wise, like there's so many callbacks, like they use real sets when they can, like they have all that attention to detail. Same exact thing with this place. They actually have it designed in a way where you can't really see the rest of the park, or like in this case Orlando around you. I've heard California is the same way. And you can't really see anything in Galaxy's Edge from outside of Galaxy's Edge either. They have the walls put certain ways. They've planted trees and things in a way where it really does look like you're walking into this other world. So architecturally and stuff, it's a beautiful place. It looks like you're walking into Star Wars, and there's just so many details. I mean, I could fill up my digital camera very easily taking pictures of even just like the little tiny details in there.
What was the atmosphere like?
So, at something, it's kind of interesting because, you're going into this world, and I'm not a big cosplayer per se, but I tried to not be a tourist. I tried to wear, like, some cargo pants, some boots, like, try to look like, a civilian, like a mechanic type person. And if you want to go there and take, like, good pictures for, like, a fan fiction or just some sort of cosplay album, it's fantastic. Like the atmosphere, they make you feel like it's Star Wars.
Right.
There have been some things that they've changed recently, like they put regular descriptions of the food back on the menus because it was just too confusing for people. But they still got the other tags next to it. Like we got basically a gyro, so a Greek meat sandwich and a pita, but they call it Ronto wrap. But they give you the description so you know what it is, because there was people complaining that it was too atmospheric. They didn't know what they were ordering. So some people may really like that. But yeah, atmosphere is great, and the employees are dressed to blend in, look like street vendors and such. They do have name tags, but the name tags are in Orbesh with their actual name below it. So that's kind of cool because it kind of gives it some more authenticity.
Adds to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I also heard that they treat Batuu, that's the name of the planet,
yes,
right?
Yeah, Batuu.
They treat Batuu like it is a real planet, and they know nothing of Disneyland. They know nothing of Disney World. They know nothing of outside that Star Wars themed land itself.
Right.
Is that actually what happened?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, they are Disney employees, so they're not going to tell you. If you have to use the bathroom, they're not going to say, I don't know what that is. It's not going to be like some of those Renaissance fairs where they go way too much into it. But I think they're kind of trained to, if you, they drop hints for you to play along, and if you do, you can, it's basically like you're talking to somebody on this planet. They don't act like normal, theme park employees. And it wasn't just me. There were other people doing it. There are some phrases and things you can use to communicate with them. There's some different greetings. Bright suns for good day and rising moons for good evening. I'm probably going to start using that for my greeting on the podcast. And then there's a few other like language tricks that they'll teach you. So that was pretty cool, and they say credits instead of dollars, things like that. So it's right. Pretty immersive. They try to play it off like it's an actual place.
That's, to a Star Wars fan, that sounds absolutely incredible.
They mess with other people too. Like I saw them basically ask a couple of tourists that were very obviously not really caring. They were like, what transport did you come in on? Your clothes look strange, things like that. So they try to make it fun for everybody.
Now, I also heard that unlike the rest of the theme park where characters come and they stand in a spot and you line up and say hello, big name characters in the Star Wars universe are roaming the park, at free will and not really confined to one spot. Is that actually what happened?
Correct, yeah. If you want to meet the characters, that's outside in Hollywood Studios. They still have places you can get your picture with, Kylo Ren. I think you did that when you got to go to Disneyland. So that sort of experience is similar. But in the actual park itself, there's a bunch of characters. The ones I saw were the big name characters. I saw Rey and Chewbacca wandering around. Rey especially roams all over the place because, she's trying to recruit extra members to the Resistance because both factions are sort of rebuilding after Episode 8. So you get to see her kind of going around. I heard that they will actually let you take part in mini adventures with them. They're, I'm going over to the First Order outpost, or I'm going to pick up this package from this shop. Do you mind escorting me? I didn't get to experience that, but I've heard stories of that. So yeah, it's not your normal meet and greet. They have actual routines that they're supposed to follow, which again makes it seem like it's more alive. They were working on an X-Wing at one point, so it's not a meet and greet. Everyone was taking pictures, but they were basically acting like the audience, the people weren't there. They were doing their thing and, doing their part of whatever the story was. So that was pretty interesting.
Which just adds to the fact that they want you to believe that this is a living and breathing world,
right,
and not a theme park experience, which I guess you can go as deep into cosplaying and deep into playing the role of a Star Wars character, or you can be, like Jared said, the touristy type. They'll probably poke a little fun at you, but you'll still be able to enjoy it as a human tourist instead of a Batu native.
Yeah, it helps if you're a Star Wars fan and you're trying to roleplay, though, because to be honest, compared to the rest of Disney World, it's not a small place. We spent several hours there easily, and I would need to go back and experience more things, but it's not so big that you would need to buy one ticket and just spend your time there. It's not that big. So it's
that was something I was actually concerned about. That was something I was concerned about. I'm actually going to the Disneyland version of Galaxy's Edge here in February. So all this experience is in Orlando, and we're kind of going to see once I do my trip and come back. We're going to draw comparisons and contrasts and see what's the same and what's different. Most likely it'll be mostly the same, but maybe there will be a few differences. And that was one of the things I was wondering was, is it going to take all day to have fun in this Star Wars land? And it's only 14 acres in Disneyland. So it might take, a good half a day.
Yeah.
But after that, you've seen everything and you can move on.
Right. Or if you're, really into it and you want to examine all the intricate details, play with the datapad app to earn your faction rep and pretend credits, you could spend all day there, but you don't have to. Now, for you, I'm saying this probably first time for you. You're going to be there when the new ride opens and the land is complete for right now, the Rise of the Resistance. So if you choose to do that, you'll probably be there all day, because if it's anything like the Avatar ride at Disney World, it's going to be a 3+ hour wait. Probably more like 5 or 6 hours if you don't show up really early and get in line first.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. I got 3 kids, and patience
that's tough.
Is not one of their virtues.
Now, I can say this. I don't know if it's something they're going to try and work on, or if people are just waiting for the Rise of the Resistance to open up. Me and my wife are pass holders, so we're going to be able to go back and experience it over and over, which is really nice. But the couple of times we've walked through, there has never been longer than a 45-minute wait to get on the ride they do have, which is the Smuggler's Run, the Millennium Falcon. And one of the days was kind of busy, and we still were able to, if we wanted to. We didn't ride it that day, but the wait times were very short. So I don't know if that'll change when Rise of the Resistance opens up. But I think because it's not so big that you have to spend all day there, I think a lot of the tourist-type people are not spending all day, and maybe that's why the ride times are shorter. I'm not into all that analytics and stuff, and it's there, so it's they're not going to close it down because of bad attendance. Right. It's interesting that it's not taking forever. The Avatar ride took longer than the Millennium Falcon. We were in line for 3.5 hours for that thing.
in Disney terms, a 45-minute wait is
Nothing.
Sweet. It's the best. When we did Cars Land when it first opened a couple years ago, it was 2 or 3 hour wait, and Fast Pass tickets were gone within minutes of the park opening, and it took us a few days to even get to do the ride. And
you might benefit from that. I don't know if Smuggler's Run will be on Fast Pass by then, but Rise of the Resistance definitely will not. They like to keep it several months, and I don't even think they're taking... They might just now have started taking Fast Passes for the Avatar stuff, and it's booked up. You cannot get them, period.
Right.
So, it's...
So, all that aside, how was your experience overall? What'd you do? What'd you buy?
Yeah.
It's an arm and leg to buy everything, so...
Yeah, I tried to mix it up a little bit. If it was up to me, I could have spent all day there, especially with that DataPad app, because the way that works is if you're on the Disney Wi-Fi, or if you're just using your phone data and you have your GPS turned on, it can tell where you are in the land, and you can interact with the land. So there's control panels, there are like radio towers, there are signs you can translate. So there's all these different activities you can do with your phone, and what that does is gives you faction reputation points, basically. So you can choose to support the First Order, the Resistance, or I think it's called, I want to say Smugglers. While I'm talking about it, Scoundrels. I'll look it up on the Play app while I'm talking about it really quick. And that gives you even more interactivity. So you were talking about how immersive was it. It's not just, I hacked a control panel, I get reputation. You get to play a little mini game on your phone. So I don't know if any of you remember those pipe dream game where you routed the flow of water by, dragging paths or turning things. It's kind of like that. That's one of them. That's like hacking circuits. So there's some interactivity to it. Encryption codes for crates. It's kind of like puzzle pieces. It gives you all these geometric shapes, and you have to make a picture that matches the picture of the encryption code, and that'll get you access. I don't know that they've gone super far into it yet. I'm hoping they add more to it in the future. Or maybe I just didn't stay long enough. But you get all these different things. Like you get cargo, you get weapons, you get outfits that you can equip on your pretend avatar.
Right.
I tried to support the Resistance, and I ended up having the most reputation with the Smugglers. Mostly, I think, because while we were in line for the Millennium Falcon for Smuggler's Run, you can do activities on your phone while you're in line, which is kind of cool because it helps the wait not be so long. And I was scanning crates and doing all this stuff in the freelance area, so I just kept getting Smuggler rep because I was there. So that was pretty cool. Let me see what this faction's called super fast.
Speaking
Scoundrel
of waiting
faction,
in line,
you are correct.
Point for me. Speaking of waiting in line for the Falcon ride, I heard, or I think I read it in an article, that the line to get into the ride for the Falcon pretty much circles a real life scale model of the Falcon.
Correct.
That being one of our favorite ships of all time, how was that?
It's insanely detailed. I can't remember if there's anything actually in it, because when you do the ride, you're not getting in the actual model, because there's just no way they could do that and actually get people through the ride, because they're sending, it's these groups of 6, and they're sending 8 or 9 groups at a time, so they're taking 50 people through this ride. So you're not getting in the actual Falcon, but I know the ramp goes up and down, and it's off limits for get park guests. They have and again, immersive. It's a very Star Wars looking cargo bay fence kind of around it, cordoning it off. But the actors are in there. At one point, the First Order patrol came through, and Rey and a Resistance member were in there. And as soon as they saw the troops coming down the street, they immediately ran and hid behind the landing gear, and then came up to the fence and basically stood behind the tallest people in line so that the guards wouldn't see them. So that was pretty cool. It's a huge, it's the exact same scale, I feel like, as when you see it in the movies and people are walking up to it. It's very detailed. One of the mini games actually is, man, I got to do it without spoilers. You're working for the scoundrel faction. I mean, he's a, Han and Chewie were smugglers. Chewie's still apparently doing cargo runs. So you're basically, I can say this, you're basically kind of doing, it's almost like a pre-flight inspection. So the app asks you questions about like, what do the like fuel tubes and what do the engine fins, like what does their current state look like how many of them are discolored or things like that. So you sort of get to interact with the world because you're standing above it at one point, and so you can basically turn on the app and it'll say, can you please inspect the drive fins for me, like how many of them look like they've been replaced because they're a different color, and just some cool stuff like that. So it's huge. It is a full size model.
Can you imagine being a cast member in Disneyland or Disney World and being a Star Wars fan and getting to play Star Wars with a life-size Falcon? I mean, that would be any Star Wars fan's dream, and here's some of these people actually getting to live it out every day. I mean,
that would be pretty cool.
That sounds absolutely incredible.
Minus the rules, of course.
Get rid of all the tourist people. We'll play after hours, I guess.
It feels like fast food. I don't know that I could ever do it again, even though I really love Star Wars. But I'm sure there's days where it's super fun for them, especially if guests are like playing along. It probably helps your day go fast.
So, did you get to go into the Cantina? I know that when the land first opened in Anaheim, the wait was so long that they started doing reservations only, and as soon as reservations filled up for the day, you didn't get in. So, were you able to get in?
Yeah, they're changing that now, at least in Orlando. I don't know about California, but there's still like a regular queue, so it's just like another restaurant. You can get in line and they'll put your name down, but it's X amount of wait. But they are still doing reservations, so we were actually able to get a 1 p.m. reservation, okay. So I was able to get in. Once you get to go, we can kind of post pictures and talk about it. That's the most detailed part of the land besides the hangar for the Millennium Falcon right now.
I didn't know.
It's super detailed. It legit feels like you're walking into a Star Wars cantina. You get that Mos Eisley feel, but they have it just different enough that you're like, this is a Star Wars cantina. I know what this is, but it's definitely, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm on this planet. I'm in the cantina.
Different than Maz's place, too?
Yes. Maz's place is, very chaotic. It actually sort of reminds me of the Star Wars version of a food court, almost. Now that I think about it. Yeah. If you remember, there's, all these booths and, fire pits and stuff everywhere. It's not uniform. This is more uniform. We didn't get to sit down. We had to stand at the bar, because sit down, if you don't have a large party, you're not getting it.
Right.
Right. Really cool experience, though, because they're playing Cantina music. He played the band droid, which, if you don't know who that is, I guess I won't spoil it this time. But he plays some classics, he calls it, and so he played the Big and Dan and the Modal Node song from the actual, the Cantina, famous Cantina music. He played that. He played some other things. They have all kinds of crazy drinks in there. I'll probably put one of those up in the middle of this with the photo ability we have. I think I got what was called... Man, you put me on the spot now. I didn't do alcohol because it was just ridiculously expensive. I wanted to, but I think I got I think it's called the Jabba Juice, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah? And what would that be in earthly terms?
So, man, so it was some couple different kinds of fruit juice.
Okay.
There was a Powerade in there, so a Gatorade type thing to give it color. Some blueberry, some green apple. It's these so and they're filled with green apple juice, and you can actually drink them and pop them they're edible. And so you get a burst of flavor. And then they actually have a dry ice pack they put underneath the drink so that it bubbles the entire time. Very science fiction looking.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
I have a terrific video of that I'll put up in the middle, I think. Or if not, at least the picture. And the other cool thing about it is you get to keep the coasters.
Now, like he already mentioned, that everything in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is supposed to be immersive.
Yeah.
So you can just see there, all the coasters are in the Star Wars language Arabesh.
Mm-hmm.
And now, what did that one say that had the Rancor on it?
So that's a drink, I believe, or an ale. It says Bloody Rancor along the top. I did not translate the rest of it. I think that's a red ale, like a Killian's Irish Red type of beer, because they actually got a brewing company in Orlando to make them these beers and give them Star Wars names. So who knows, Disney, maybe they'll actually start selling them outside the park at some point. But I think that was a red ale. The other one feels like, that almost looks, to me, that looks like a racing team logo or something. I haven't translated that one yet. And then on the back, I think it says food and drinks and some other stuff in Orbesh. And you can, if you forget these, they will recycle them. But if you ask to keep them, they will gladly let you take them. They're a fancier cardboard. But that's it's a cool immersive thing to have.
Yeah, they... like you mentioned, the Disney's going down to the very last minute detail. Another thing I heard that my wife and I are probably going to do is a gift card for Galaxy's Edge. It's a minimum of $100, but it looks like a legitimate Republic credit chip.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and you're obviously going to be spending that much money. If you're a big fan, you're going to, pour a lot of money into that.
I didn't get to see one of those this
time.
Didn't? No.
Oh.
I didn't go in every shop. I went into is it Doc Ondar's? One of the places you can get lightsaber crystals. Like something antiquities. I apologize to everybody who knows this already, and I don't. I'm completely failing right now, but it's like an antique shop, and that was actually one of the best parts of the role-playing experience. There's a whole bunch of interchangeability with some of the props and like Star Wars gear you can buy, and they definitely play it off like you're purchasing something. I asked to look at the Kyber crystals, and the employee basically followed me and asked if I really was ready to handle the responsibility of owning something that carried that much power, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Did he accuse you of shoplifting?
No, she didn't. She was nice about it.
So if you can't notice, but behind Jared's head there is a bag.
Oh,
we know what that is.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us? Jared got to build. Well, he got to experience that special experience of building a lightsaber. Now, a lot of people myself included, are requesting don't go into too much detail because they say that the price for the experience alone is worth the price. So I would like to experience that for myself when I go. But kind of give us an overview on what building the lightsaber was like.
So that was an amazing experience. Thankfully, my wife was nice enough to get that for me for an anniversary gift. So she's awesome for that. And it was a crazy good experience. The waiting queue, it's not really a line like rides are, because you make appointments. I don't think... You can't really even do a walk-in. I think if you walk up, they will tell you what appointments are left for the day. You can't just jump into a group that's building. Maybe if there was an opening, I think you might be able to, but I don't believe there was any openings when I did it. I think it was a full group. So for that... Again, very, very immersive. The checkout counter looks like a merchant booth, something you'd see on Tatooine or Batu. This is more earthy, so not everything's tan, everything's more brown. But again, a merchant booth like that. They ask you a few questions. Which parts feel like they're calling to you, which destiny you think you might have, and there's 5 or 6 different. Basically trays of parts you get to choose from. I'm not going to spoil the names because they all have something to do with Star Wars. I chose one that I wouldn't normally get to pick, which was really awesome. Something pretty unique looking, and there's some pretty good variation you can have there. Another cool thing, while we were waiting, something I didn't learn until almost the very end, which will be helpful for you when you go. If you ever have a question about the parts, they actually have a sample tray that you're allowed to look at. They basically have a cargo container that has the parts for your particular build in it, and they're glued down so you can't steal them. But you get to actually like touch and feel them and see what the designs look like. So once I got to do that, it made it very obvious which selection I wanted. So that was pretty cool. Another thing that happened for immersiveness while we were waiting in line, First Order stormtroopers walked by on the street above. You're sort of like down in a little, like you're visible from the street, but it's sort of down in like a little like depression in the ground. And when they started stomping by, you could hear them walking, and immediately all the employees were like, just remember, everybody, all we're doing is selling scrap metal to you guys. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. We're just selling scrap metal. And a couple of the employees like turned away and pretended they weren't really working. Some people hid behind things. And then the stormtroopers and the First Order officer came down and basically kind of shook the place down. Like, they asked all these questions. Like, they didn't pretend rough anybody up or anything, but they were like asking some pretty like pointed questions, like what's going on here, you know, why are all these people from, you know, other worlds here? And so basically they don't even need you, like the factions will interact with each other besides you even being there. So they basically gave their kind of fake answers of it being a scrap dealership, and the First Order officer wasn't super happy about it, but he called the troops off and they left. A pretty hilarious thing that actually happened while that happened, though, is somebody came that was basically dressed up as much as you're allowed to without breaking the rules. Like, I think he might have had a cape or a small hood. You're not allowed to wear robes there, but anyway, he was fully decked out. Like, he had the baggy shirt, the baggy pants. He looked like a wannabe Padawan, basically. And he actually had his own custom-built double-bladed lightsaber strapped to his back, because that's how you're supposed to carry them around the park. And he was holding it while he was waiting in line to like pay for, you know, building his own single one. A stormtrooper turned around, and basically standing right in front of him was this guy with a double-bladed lightsaber. And the stormtrooper played it off fantastic. Like, told him, you know, he should calm down. There's no reason to start anything on the street and all this. And so there was a little bit of an interaction there, which was really, really awesome. But then once you get in, I can't do a whole lot because of spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it. Right. But there's a cool tie-in to some of the novels that Disney has written. Basically, these guys that are selling pretend scrap metal that's actually lightsabers, they're part of a group called the Gatherers. They're dedicated to preserving Star Wars history, and they kind of give their backstory a little bit, and that was really, really cool. I'll leave that for when you decide to do it. But then you're in there for a good, I don't know, 30 minutes, I felt like, you know, with the talking and the building. It's
30 and 40 minutes.
Yep, and there's some cool surprises in there. And there's a lot of lore and backstory that the guy gives you. And the host that we had, like the master builder or whatever he called himself, was a fantastic. He did a really good job of making us feel like we really were in this like basement building these lightsabers. So it was a fantastic experience. Normally I don't like spending that much money at a theme park, but it was worth the money for sure.
That being said, you want to show off your hilt?
I can try if these headphones, if you lose my audio 1 second. If you heard that on the audio, you can tell how heavy it is.
It's a serious piece of...
I was telling Andrew before we started recording, if any of you have ever owned one of those Maglite flashlights, it's about as heavy or maybe a little heavier than that, so it would damage a person. So yeah, this is I won't tell anybody what group this is part of. It'll be on the sheet, but you basically get to choose one emitter, 2 sleeves, so one sleeve here, one sleeve here, a switch style, and a cap for the end. And you also get to pick a pommel cap. You also get to pick your color. And there are...
Now I read there's the basic colors in the experience itself, but then the shop that he went to, you get to choose other kyber crystals, which will change the color of the blade that you get.
Correct. I think you get 6 out of the 9 possibilities are available at the building, at the actual build. So your normal red, green, blue. I think there's yellow and red, green, blue, yellow, purple.
I think purple's.
Yep, and maybe it's 5. Anyway, 5 or 6, I forget. And then in the shop, there's a couple. I think you can get white, which I don't think you get in the shop. And then a lot of people have been hearing the rumors, if you buy a red crystal, there's a chance you can get a black kyber crystal. I'm not
Dark Saber.
I'm not going to buy that many crystals to try to get one, and I'm certainly not paying these ridiculous eBay prices for one. So if I ever choose to get red, if I don't get it, oh well, I guess I don't get it. There used to be a way to guarantee you could get one, but Disney took that away. So
now, white seems like a cool idea in theory, but do you have the blade nearby you?
I do. 1 second here.
So if you see the blade, it's a plastic type blade, and if it's white, I can't help but feel like it's going to look nothing but like a business type of fluorescent light bulb.
That's what I feel. And I think it's white. Forgive me if I misspoke on that. But basically what this does is it has one of those multicolored LEDs in it. So whichever crystal you put in it, it gives a radio chip. It's an RFID tag, kind of like the like those fancy watches and cell phones where you can tap to pay. It's basically that sort of idea. And that will tell it what color blade to illuminate. So this will actually give you all of the colors. Black just does red. So the only thing you would have a black crystal for is bragging rights. Look, I found a black crystal. And there's a tiny little scroll that says this is a rare black powerful crystal.
I got a Sharpie that says I got all the black crystals.
Right? So, yeah. And this... I almost could do my own review on it. Maybe one day they'll make it a little bit better. The light and activation sounds are fantastic, and so are the sound. Like when you move it, you get the whooshing sound. The actual hitting of contact seems to be hit or miss at this point. But you probably don't want to play with it anyway. It's more of a thing to show off. And you can bring it with you to the park, actually, too. As long as you put it in the sleeve, which you can sort of see it behind my shoulder here. Other shoulder, way. That one.
There you go.
So yeah, and it has a cool little logo on it. But you can carry it around like that, or if you bring it without the blade, you could clip it to your belt. It's really heavy, but yeah. So fantastic experience, definitely worth it. I'm curious to see if I can pick up the crystals. They're really inexpensive. They're like $12, $12 or $14, something like that.
I heard that if you're on a budget, like the crystals and there's some other stuff, I think Chance Dice, there's other things that are a part of the Star Wars universe that would be a must-have for the collector without spending outrageous amounts of money.
Right.
That being said, aside from the lightsaber building experience, I don't know which shop it is, but they do sell what they call legacy blades or legacy hilts, and it's all the popular blades you've seen from the movies. You got Luke Skywalker's blade, you have Obi-Wan Kenobi's blade, you have Anakin's, Darth Vader's, Darth Maul's. Then you even get into some of the TV show where you have Ahsoka Tano, you have Asajj Ventress, Ezra Bridger. So I mean, they're digging deep into the Star Wars lore when it comes to selling merchandise, and
those are the ones you probably want to play with, to be honest. I probably wouldn't have a fake duel with this unless somebody else had another one as well, because it is more sturdy than the toy ones. Even if it doesn't make the toy ones make better sounds, the legacy ones make better sounds, I think. But you could break one of the toy ones probably with this.
Right.
But yeah, no, they have all the legacy ones in there. You can buy. There's a whole bunch of different things in there, and on a budget, like you said, the crystals are very cheap. Even if you don't have a lightsaber, they make a really cool thing to display on like a shelf or a display case. Like, there's definitely ways to do it on a budget.
All right, thank you so much for watching. We really hope it was fun for you guys to watch. Stay tuned for the coming episodes. We're going to be discussing more on what's been going on in Star Wars. In the meantime, be sure to follow our Instagram at it's all lowercase library_of_Xer, XER, and we'll be doing Heir of the Empire soon.
Yep, and again, also, if you feel like you want to donate, we have our Patreon page that we'll have a link to there. And always, as always, please keep it civil. This is supposed to be fun discussion for everyone, so keep it civilized in the comment sections. Nothing bad or controversial in there, or we will block people.
No spoilers.
Yeah. Until next time, fly casual.